Hello, welcome back to Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts. I'm Susan Sipal. On the wake of the announcement last week that Fantastic Beasts 2 would include a magical circus, I've decided to explore, in a series of 3 videos, exactly what the circus might look like and what it'll mean for the story. In order to understand the theory as a whole better, we must first start with the element of time. I covered many theories like this in my book, Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts, and hope you'll check it out. We know that with JK Rowling, she chooses her details carefully, and many of them carry hints for future stories, including time. I believe that key clues for the next film are hidden in the time element of where the first movie ends and when the story of the magical circus picks up. I want to show you something curious that happens at the end of the first film. We know the dates for when Credence finally lost control and the most lethal Obscurus attack took place, based on the script book and the newspapers of the day, December 7, 1926. Now, watch what happens when the auras go through New York City, fixing everything back, while Frank's rain pelts down, erasing the memories of the No-Majes. The New York Clarion headline changes from "Destruction in Times Square, Magical Creature Wreaks Havoc" to "Unusual Weather Pattern Strikes New York. Wettest November in living memory." Living memory, Times Square. Not so subtle nudges. But the key element to notice is that word November. This should be published December 7th. I wish I could see clearly the date on this revamped newspaper, but why would it say November if the rains are still continuing into December? This headline clearly indicates that a whole week of time has been wiped from No-Maj memory. We know from Prisoner of Azkaban, and even Cursed Child, that playing with time is no laughing matter in the wizarding world. It has serious repercussions. If MACUSA wiped out a week of memories for New York City, what will that mean going forward? The first thing I wonder about is whether this loss of time struck New York City only, as it seems to. Did they indeed lose a week on the calendar, as the newspaper seems to indicate? If so, how can they then be in sync with the rest of the world? Or was it just a loss of memory of a week that existed in time? But then, how are they going to feel when everyone discovers that no one else in the city can remember the first week of December? And did anyone in the magical world outside MACUSA experience the memory loss as well? Such as the magical people within Circus Arcanus. If I'm right that the circus pictured in Fantastic Beasts 1 is the magical circus announced for Fantastic Beasts 2, and it seems too coincidental not to assume they are related, how were they affected by the rain? According to their publicity poster, they were definitely in town doing shows. But circuses are usually on the fringe of society, and I would assume they are so even in the magical world. Would they have gotten any message to protect themselves? Suvi Holm of Finland, who shared her Dumbledores of possible demigods and omegas theory with us earlier, helped me look over the images from the movie to see if we could figure out what might be the difference in the way the magical people and the No-Maj were affected by the venom in the rain. Whereas the witches and wizards who were going about setting things right were all wearing hats and raincoats, even many of the No-Maj were as well. And as Suvi pointed out, it can be assumed even the witches and wizards had to drink the water. So perhaps there was something in the swooping evil venom that only affected the No-Maj. If so, then the witches and wizards of the magical circus would retain their memories as well. What might they do with this knowledge of what happened during that week that MACUSA wants everyone to forget? And what did Madame Picquery say about not leaving even one witness? But as the Ilfracombe incident of 1932 shows, mentioned in Newt's own textbook Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the likelihood of at least one No-Maj retaining some sort of memory is high. While he may be a special case, we've already seen the likelihood that Jacob will regain at least some memories. Furthermore, could that witness include photographic evidence? Are we to forget that Shaw Sr. had his photographer snapping photos of the whole subway scene? Or did the swooping evil venom wipe the film out as well? We already know how eager Langdon Shaw was in his zeal to prove the existence of the magical community. What would he do should he stumble across those negatives?
And how will they explain his brother's, the senator's, death, now with their memories wiped? Is it possible Langdon will be blamed? We already have evidence for an innocent person getting blamed for this week of lost memory, and it's right there in those newspapers we previously studied. Look at this other headline, beside the unusual weather report. It's hard to see, but I've blown it up and it says, "Shock retirement for Steen bank manager, Gilbert Bingley." As a result of this widespread memory wipe, Mr. Bingley lost his job. Since the memory of Newt and Jacob standing over the pile of money has been wiped from everyone's memories, someone else had to take the blame. And who was standing or lying right there near the bank vault the day Newt and Jacob visited? Mr. Bingley. What the newspaper shows is the repercussions of meddling with time. In rushing for a solution to prevent a catastrophe, did MACUSA unwittingly stumble into a time conundrum that will usher in a greater catastrophe in the future? Speaking of a greater catastrophe in the future, there's one more intriguing link of time shown at the end of Fantastic Beasts 1, as Grady Grindy makes his way to Credence, that I'm sure will come to play in the second film. The date listed for Circus Arcanus' trip to Europe. Their final show is December 13th, when they are bound for Europe. I've researched it, and a ship at this time could make the transatlantic crossing from New York to Liverpool within 5 days. So not only does December 13th play with Rowling's love of unlucky number 13, but it also gives the circus plenty of time to get to England, if that is their destination, before New Year's Eve, a timing that curiously coincides with the birth of Tom Riddle, who would later become Lord Voldemort. Curiously, but not coincidentally. Again, with Rowling, there is no coincidence. But more on this theory in the next video. For now, I believe that Rowling was very deliberate about her timing of the first movie as it relates to the second. We now know that the second film will start in New York before moving on to London and then Paris. David Heyman said in an interview last year that an ending had been shot for the first film, which was never used, which showed Credence getting on a boat. As I stated in my earlier video on Credence running away to join the circus, I believe Circus Arcanus will provide his mode of support and transportation between New York and Europe, and someone in this band of so-called freaks may well include a connection to the events of New Year's Eve in London 1926. I want to circle back to the question of time. One of the key thrusts for Rowling throughout this franchise has got to be how she's going to keep the audience on the seat of their pants when so much of the end result is already known. And from a pragmatic standpoint, that's where I think the time element may come into play. What if that possible lost week from the first film is repeated on a colossal scale for the fifth? What if something so jarring, so cataclysmic happens at the ending, but it has to be wiped from everyone's minds, both witches and wizards included this time? Or perhaps that lost week finally rebounds and reclaims itself, and in so doing, rewrites history along the way. Also, JK Rowling has an interview with Christiane Amanpour airing today at 8 p.m. CET, 2 p.m. ET. From the way Amanpour laughs and says, "This is a JK Rowling scoop, I'm sorry," it's not clear that it's a real announcement. And Rowling usually likes to play games with her fans for the real big news. But if we do get something good, join me back here to discuss. We're due for the announcement of a new book, but it's also possible we'll get the title for Fantastic Beasts 2. To be honest, time theory is not my strong suit, so please share your ideas in the comments. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss my next video, where I'll delve more into what I think will happen with Credence and Circus Arcanus. Be sure to check the description box below for links to the prior videos I mentioned. Also, don't forget to check out my Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts at Amazon or your local bookseller.